the barn, and how about them eagles? I did not even think about that until I came out here and I looked down and I'm like, oh, I'm entirely dressed in green. What a funny coincidence. But truthfully, we're not huge football fans in our family because I'm married to a Brit, so, you know, American football. He knows a little tiny bit about it, and he thinks it's all about the food. That's what he decided. He couldn't understand because he, you know, in rugby they play much longer sessions, and he thought, why are they stopping all the time? They just got started playing. Every 2 seconds they're stopping, and then he's like, it's all about the food. It's all about the snacks and getting up and chatting to your friends and eating some more. And so then he's like, I get this now. So we're good with that. But we are in Pennsylvania. I felt very bad for the kicker. And, you know, it seemed a little unfair that we called that timeout just when we did. But, you know, I guess that's what you save the timeouts for. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not holding my breath for anything, but after last year it was pretty exciting, so we did turn the game on this weekend and we're pleasantly surprised, shall we say. Whips, let's see, shall I talk about whips first? I pulled out a really old whip to show you. This is Sarah Girmani, I think you say, Waiting for Christmas. And it's been waiting a long time. This is what I have so far. The true story about this is that I was going great guns on this, and my mom, who died when she was 94, was living with us, and she was, you know, excited to see my progress and always wanting to know how it was going, and ooh, what have you done so far? And then she got sick and she died, and I just did not have the heart to work on it. And that was about 1.5 years ago, and I am now feeling like I could work on that and finish it up. I'd like to make a big pillow out of it, and you know, put it out at Christmas time on the living room couch or something. And it will give me joy to think of my mother and her interest in that stitching. So I'm at that stage now, which is good. It's a good thing. The other thing that I started was I did start Farms of Cochran Hollow. And I'm going to do it this way. We have a huge window in the barn, so that's what all the streaming light is. I'm going to do it in the square configuration rather than the long way. I think I talked about that last time. So I did make a start, and I'm going to try and do 1 square a month. I think that's a great plan. And I saw Farm Girl had proposed 9 finishes in 2019, which I think is a reasonable number. I like that idea. I'm just not sure, like the ones that you're doing 1 a month, like my glitter houses and this 1 square a month, how to count those in. Like, do they count as part of the 9, or should I pick different things? I don't know. I'm thinking about that. And then I had a finish. Well, this is easy, you know, a quickie. Fun but quickie. So there he is. He's got his Whisper, and you know, I hadn't used Whisper for a long time, and I pulled it out and I thought, oh yeah, that's right. I'm allergic to mohair. This is why I don't like Whisper. But also, I know I'm going to use Whisper when I get to the sheep in the Farmhouse Christmas series, which I think is going to be on my list of 9. But I forgot, somebody I remember reading had said they'd used 1 strand of floss with 1 strand of Whisper, and it seemed much better because the Whisper, by its nature, being the mohair strands, I guess it's a blend, mohair and other stuff, but it gets thin in some parts. So depending on the thread, you know, where you're hitting the thread, it's thicker or thinner. But from a distance, you can't see, so I'm not going to hold it up close. So when I get to those sheep, I'm going to try and remember to do 1 strand of floss and 1 strand of Whisper, and hopefully it will go better then. I thought I would show you some other things that I am very interested in, magazines being one of them. As you will discover, I have this obsessive compulsive hoarding personality, and I love magazines. I really do. I love them so much that it's very hard for me to part with them. I did just make myself get rid of a whole bunch of magazines, which I really truly haven't regretted, because I would rather have the space for my craft supplies. But things I have not been able to let go of are Mary Englebright's Home Companion, all Christmas issues of special magazines, things like that. For a long time I had a lot of Victoria magazines, and I had a lot of Early American Life, and I went through and I just saved certain ones that were special to me. But I'm going to show you some of my current favorites. I love British country living. It is gorgeous. It's got things about rural living, which, you know, country living. Whereas the American version, I feel, is more like a house magazine, house decorating, which is fine, it's fun. But this will talk, you know, have interviews with shepherds and roof thatchers and people like that. And the pictures are just gorgeous. I mean, it's just a beautiful magazine. If you like gardening and a lot of things that I love, like the crafts, they'll usually feature, oh, here's an article, The Power of Storytelling. I don't remember that one. This is an old issue, I think. It was January from 2017, but the reason I brought it out is to show you something else that I am really into, someone else, and that is the artist Dee Nickerson. She's a British artist. She does these lovely paintings of rural scenes, but a lot with women crafting, which fascinate me. She has a very distinctive style, and she almost always features like a dog or a cat in the picture as well. So there was a whole article in her which I've saved, and I can't afford her paintings, or I don't think I can. I've never actually looked in the catalogs, but I can afford some of her note cards. I sent to this company in Britain called Green Pebble, and they print her cards, and I thought I'd show you some of them. I haven't used them yet. I'm hoarding them. Here, this one, I don't know if it says what it's called. I don't think so, but it's a woman knitting with her two cats in the rural scene behind, which I just love. Here's a woman darning a sock with her two cats, and she's got her scissors and her, it looks like she's got her slippers on, and the cat's looking out the window at the birds in the snowy scene. Here's one of three women knitting, and dog at their feet and bowl of yarn at their feet, which I love this. I don't know if you can see that well enough. They just have a fabulous quality. I just love them. Here's a woman sewing with a cat on her bed. Here's, I like this one just for sort of Christmas feel. It's just two friends walking and they've been collecting holly. They have kind of elongated faces and figures, which being 5'10" appeals to me. I just love her style. Here's a woman taking a walk along the hedgerow with her two cats. I love her coat and the way she's bundled up, and I just love them. Here are two friends on the beach with their dogs. Oh, to live in Britain, where you're walking along beautiful country roads and the beach is right there. My grandmother used to say that nowhere in Britain are you farther than 40 miles from the sea, which is kind of a nice thing, I think, really. Here's some people, here's another one of my favorite activities, reading. It's people on the beach, but one friend is not listening to the conversation. She's reading her book. I like that. And what's the last one? Knitting on the beach. Wouldn't that be fun? With her dogs. And the wind blowing her hair wildly. I just think they're really fun. Anyway, the woman's name is Dee Nickerson, which is Deenickerson. I have a Pinterest page devoted to her because I just think she's fantastic. And I have some other British artists like that I will show in the future that do all kinds of wonderful things. So I thought that was a fun thing to share. Something else I'm into apparently is winning things, because last Christmas I responded to Bets White's page on her Instagram account, and I won the cutest, softest gnome blanket. Isn't that wonderful? I love this. I want to have this out all year, not just Christmas. So before I packed it away, I wanted to show it to you. And I was so happy to win this. And actually, I'll tell you, I have a little part-time job. It's very part-time. It's like 1 day a week. But I go in and help a friend who has a shop that sells jewelry and pottery and things like that. And sometimes I go with her to New York to go to the shows. And I saw Bets White's display. And she wasn't there at the time, her booth. Otherwise, I would have stopped and thanked her in person for my gift. But lovely blankets. Check her out on Instagram. Very soft wool knit. She's got some very cute ones for, they make great baby blanket gifts. Why was that so hard to say? And I think they have little hedgehogs and foxes and all kinds of cute things. And then this year, I won the 5 most popular books from Moda. Can you believe it? I won Stash-tastic, 12 Patterns for Fat Quarter Quilts, Doug Lecco. Apparently that's one of their best sellers. I won Start with Strips by Susan, it looks like Ache, A-C-H-E, I'm not sure how you say it. Again, fabulous. Oh Scrap, how do you like that title? Lisa Alexander. These are all people I follow on Instagram too, so it's really fun that I've actually won their books. Another Lisa Alexander, this one's compiled. It's mini charm quilts, 18 clever projects for 2.5-inch squares, which will be very useful. And the last one, Be Still My Heart, was Kim Deal, D-I-E-H-L, I hope I'm saying that right, Simple Whatnots. It's her latest book. I just love Kim Deal. I screenshot practically everything she posts on Instagram, which makes my phone go crazy. It says, you're full, you're full, you're full. And I'm like, no, I don't want to delete. I don't want to delete. But Kim Deal has, has a way of combining color that is just unbelievable. I just love her things. And she often combines applique with patchwork. And this book is neat because she gives you little instructions, a little snippet, she calls them, extra snippet. And it'll be a little quilting, I'm really having trouble talking today, I'm sorry. Quilting tips that she has learned over the years, and Lord knows she's had a lot of experience, so. Beautiful. Oh, my problem is I just drool on these books and I need to get into my stash and cup the fabric up and get to work. But hopefully that's coming. I'm going to show you another one of my passions / obsessions, which is wool embroidery. There's lots of different styles and I like to do it all. I love to do the penny rugs. I love to do the sort of primitive things. But I also love to do Sue Spargo quilts. Sue Spargo is an artist who lives in Ohio. She has a lot of influences which resonate with me. She grew up in South Africa and my husband grew up in Kenya. So I love the sort of African feel to some of her things. She lives in Ohio, so she has this sort of Amish, Pennsylvania, Dutch influence with her work sometimes. She lived in England a lot, so she loves floral and all those things. So when I saw her quilts, I thought, wow, those are unlike anything I'd seen. I just thought, I love the way she combined fabric and wool and I had to try them. So I signed up for Block of the Month clubs with her. I started this several years ago, and I've joined several of her clubs. And I have yet to finish one of her quilts. So therein lies the tale, but I will show you the very first one I did, which I think is the one called Imperial Blossoms. I just have to check. Yes, I think it's Imperial Blossoms was this one. I'll correct myself later if I'm wrong. But what you do is you have, she sends you the kit each month. You have wool and fabric and thread, wool thread, silk thread, all kinds of threads, and different needles that you use for each one. And then you cut out the applique pattern, you sew everything down, and then the fun begins because you start embellishing. And Sue will give you her suggestions, like what stitches to use, and you can get her book and learn all the different stitches as you go, which is just so much fun. But you can also take that knowledge and run with it, because you could to put any embellishments you want. I mean, you can, and beads or anything you want to add to it. And these are in no particular order because I'm not sure which way it's supposed to be arranged, but here's one block. And I'll get close so you can see, like around each thing that you put on, each piece of wool, you're doing different stitches. So you're doing stitches here, you're doing stitches here, you're doing stitches here. And they are just wild and colorful and wonderful. And then the idea is you're going to piece them all together as a quilt. You know, the different blocks will go together and you make a big wall hanging or something. Can I tell you, it is the most fabulous feeling to sew on wool. If you've never tried it before, you've got to try it because it is so satisfying running that needle through the wool. It's so soft and delicious. It's just, it's wonderful. Here was obviously where I stopped. This one was a work in progress. So you can see I've got the fabric and the wool all tacked down, but I have just started on the embellishments because there's my needle. I can tell I was working on that one. I used to do these, this will show you how long I've been doing this. My son, who's going to graduate from college this year, was in middle school, I think, playing soccer, and I was sewing away on these, and the mothers used to make fun of me that, oh, that's that woman who's always knitting or something, and I was like, no, I was embroidering, but I think they thought, what's wrong with you? Why are you not paying more attention? The truth was I was nervous wreck, so I would peek up and watch, and then put my head down and peek up and watch, and of course I was always not looking when he would score a goal or something like that, but I pretended I was. So it was okay. So here's another one. They're just fun. They're different. I love all different styles. Country, primitive, modern, and this is just a very fun, different thing. So you can see each one of these has embroidery around it of a different type, and you learn all these different stitches as you go. And it's really fun. She uses lovely batiks and things. This one has a sort of, to me, sort of African feel. I think this was her inspiration. So I'm so nearly finished. It's just crazy I haven't finished this. I just need to finish that one block and then piece them together and then hopefully find somebody who will quilt it for me. I don't know that I'm up for quilting it myself. I like this and the velvet and just all the different things she uses. There was a woman I follow on Instagram who told me she'd sort of retired from quilting, but she would maybe do it for me because I was moaning about how I had all these blocks and I needed to get them put together and quilted, and she said, I will do it for you. So if she's still game, I'm going to contact her and see if she'll do it. I think this next one is called Twigs. This might be, is this Earth and Twig? Yes, Earth and Twig. So this is like the twigs of a branch that are all going to be going off in different directions. You can see. It's going to make a big long thing. These were fun to do. These things, these purpley things. You have to kind of weave them and make the petals around the flower. And then you can put ribbon down. And I think really, you know, all right, so I did those two. Then I thought, this is crazy, I'm behind, and yet I signed up for the next year. Well, my sister-in-law came to visit, and she is a wonderful crafter. And she grew up in Kenya with my husband, her brother. And, you know, they couldn't get a lot of materials and supplies and things. And so she really is one who can make do with whatever she has on hand. And almost takes delight in that, like not necessarily following the pattern, or you just improvising and being more creative, pushing herself to be more creative. She taught for a long time, taught children, and so I think, you know, she kept that part of her personality alive. And so I passed the next year off to her to do, because I said, this is crazy, I've got all these beautiful things, and I have the complete set, and I haven't started block 1, so I want you to have them. So she stuffed them in her suitcase, and away she went. They're living in Hong Kong, so she went back to Hong Kong. And my husband and I went to visit them about a year or so ago, and I said, oh, let me see your quilt. Of course, she'd done them. She'd done beautiful things. And I'm like, oh, that stitch is neat. Which one is that in the book? And she said, book? Book? I'm like, yeah, the book that shows you all the differences. She goes, oh, I didn't have a book. I'm like, I never gave her the book. I had bought specially a second book of Sue Spargo's with all the stitches in to give to her with this. So she would have no, she didn't have, I never gave her the book. So she had just looked at the pictures and figured everything out herself, and just, or, you know, who knows, maybe she went on YouTube or something. I don't think so. I think she just did her own thing and was just creative that way. And I'm like, gee, I ought to send you everything I have at home in my cupboards. But, so that made me laugh. But I did sign up for the next one, which is cups of tea and coffee, which is fun. And maybe one more after that I have. And then it came out for this year, and I would love to have done it. It was trees, the theme. Oh, I know, it was houses. So I've got the cups to do and the houses. If you Google Sue Spargo, you'll see these. And the one she's going to do for 2019 is trees. And I thought, I can't. I just really can't. As much as I would love to have it to do in time, I can't subscribe right now. I've got so much fabric and so much cross stitch and other things I'm working on and trying to work through, so I passed this year. But there's always a future. There's always tomorrow. She does things as a block of the month for a certain amount of time, and then I think in time she releases the pattern, and you probably as a kit as well, you could probably buy the things. I just want to show you, for those of you who like floss, this is just some of the wools and things. These are wool threads, and they are just gorgeous. They're scrumptious. They're so soft and delicious. I hope you can see all the colors in there. So when you're sewing down the felted wool, you use the wool threads. When you're sewing down the fabric, you use the cotton threads. And then you have all these wonderful threads, which I don't seem to have here, but all the embellishment threads, which it can be pearl cotton, it can be all kinds of things. Just so much fun. Just love those. Hope I haven't enabled anybody. I realized I forgot to tell you the other British magazine, which I love, is Country Homes and Interiors. And this is just another beautiful magazine. This focuses more on houses. Of course, I love, having lived in Britain a bit with my husband, I love looking at the British houses. And they certainly use a lot of wool. in the houses. I mean, it's, you know, it's just a house, it's just a design magazine, but they also feature artists and craftspeople a lot. What else do I want to show you? Haul. I've lied already. My big proclamation that I was only going to stitch from stash this year. Well, there's a very nice little cross-stitch shop. A bit of a drive for me that I hadn't been to for ages. And I thought I will go see my friend Carolyn at Just Cross Stitch. And she was having a sale. So I did pick up a few things, which I'll show you here and there. But the thing that was the best surprise for me of all was I walked in and she had on display Halloween Quaker, which I have just been drooling over on Instagram. Holiday Quaker, and Nevermore. All by Lila's studio. And there they were on display, and I thought Carolyn had stitched them, and I realized they were designer samples. I thought, oh, I get to see them in person. They're so beautiful up close, and the fabric, of course, she had the fabrics there that were required. And then, as about to leave, in walked this attractive woman, and Carolyn said, Valerie, I want you to meet, this is Lila. This is the designer. And I was like, no way. I could not believe it. I didn't say anything I wanted to say because I was starstruck and flabbergasted. It was a real treat to get to meet Lila of Lila's studio, and I will insert a picture of her standing by her beautiful work. And the last thing I want to talk about that I'm mad keen on is organization. That is certainly not to say that I am organized. It's just I love seeing that other people are organized. I don't know. I love the magazines that show you how to organize, and the TV shows that help you organize, and all the accoutrements that help you organize. But I just need to put them into practice more, I think. Two things I do want to mention that I found that are very helpful for me are apps that I've put on my phone. One is called Evernote. And I've been able to load onto Evernote all the patterns I have for cross stitch, all the rubber stamps and what are they called, the metal things that you cut out, because I am, you know, I was big into card making too. Yes, yet another obsession. So I have all that on my phone, and if I'm tempted by something like a pattern and I'm prone to impulse decisions, I make myself wait. I'm like, no, look on Evernote. Do you have that pattern already? Yes, you do. Do not buy that. So that's helpful to me. The other one is just X-Stitch, and it keeps a journal for you. So you has a place, it's like starting, you can categorize starts, finishes, whips, and there's a place to make notes about the fabric you've used, or if you were changing the colors, things like that. Ooh, this is getting too bright. I'm going to have to shift over. So I find those really helpful. I've tried to come up with different ways to organize threads and patterns at home. I've tried, currently I have a lot of my patterns in these, it was originally for scrapbook paper, I think. They're like notebooks that have plastic sheets in them, and I was able to sort of melt the plastic sheet in half so I could put a pattern this size, two of them in, and then I can fit four in because I'll have them facing out on the page. As you flip, you can see. And I have those, and I've, you know, labeled them Christmas, Halloween, fall, folk, art, you know, things like that. Then I have a big basket that I've just shoved things in as well. I do have a basket with project bags in it, which works pretty well for me. I keep those, and I saw Kitten Stitcher was going to make herself rotate, do a different one each day or week or something. I thought, well, that's a good way to work through your WIPs. I just keep that in the living room. So those are all helpful things to get you organized. House-wise, I've tried Flylady. You can look up flylady.net because it's like she's thought about your whole house and made a schedule. So she will say, this week you're working on the living room. You just have to keep everything neat and tidy, but then she'll give you special assignments like in the living room this week, you have to dust lampshades or something like that. So that's all you have to do for the living room besides the regular cleaning. But then it'll come around the next month when you're in the living room, she'll have you do the baseboards or something like that. So in a way, you're not so overwhelmed. You're just focusing on one little aspect that you need to do that week. Well, I don't really follow her so much anymore. When I first found her, the kids were younger and I was in a total panic, and she was very, very helpful. Now I just kind of keep the things that she's taught me in the back of my head, and that has been helpful. There's Tiffany, who is primarily for scrapbookers, but a lot of her methods are good. If I think of any others, I'll put them down below, but you know, I'm always looking for that kind of stuff. And of course, there's a new TV show on Netflix. It's Marie Kondo. I haven't watched it yet. I did read her book, The Magic Art of Tidying Up, or whatever it was called. And she appealed to me. She's a little extreme, but she has a way of getting to people who are sentimental and helping them through clearing out clutter. You know, you hold each object in your hand and you thank it in your head. You know, you're saying thank you for the service you gave me, and I appreciate that. It's time to let you go. It's kind of like the Native Americans praying over the deer. You know, thank you for giving your life so that my family can survive. It's crazy that we sentimentalists have to go to such lengths to part with our belongings, but whatever it takes, you know. So I'm going to check out the Marie Kondo show on Netflix, but I have liked those books. Currently I have my fancy floss hanging a la Vonna. You know, I put it in file boxes with those little metal rings, and they're hanging that like that. I'm not sure that's going to work for me. We'll see. I sort of like the aesthetic of just a big old wrought iron bar with hoops hanging from it, where you could see and touch it, but it's probably better for me that it's in a box where it's away from dust and light. So maybe I will live with that for a little while longer and see if I want to make a change or not. And the final magazine, I'm all over the place today. Back to magazines. The final magazines I want to mention are the Where Women Create. Have you guys seen those magazines? I love seeing where people's studios are. My favorite posts on Instagram are when people show where they sew or where they knit or where they stitch. To me, that's just endlessly fascinating. So Where Women Create is one that I've liked for a long time. I just randomly marked photographs like that where you can see somebody's studio, where they've got their little baskets of things and all the colors and textures, and oh, I would just drool over this. There used to be one called Studios, and I don't think that's around anymore, but I just found this new one called In Her Studio, which I'm going to look at and see if I like it as much. These are those big, heavy, sort of more expensive magazines, so they're kind of a treat. I hope they don't come out too often, but I can't resist them when I see them. I just love them. I'm sure there's other things I should have talked about or wanted to talk about or whatever, and I will try and be more organized next time, but I hope everybody's having a good start to the year. And what is this across my face? There, that's better. You know, health and happiness this year. Let's all carry on as we, what's the expression? Start as we mean to carry on. So all good intentions. Let's see how we do. Today is my first day of sugar detox. Oh my word, I was naughty over Christmas, so I'm gonna try and suffer through this week. I'll let you know how I do with that. But hope everybody's well and having fun, and nice to see you again. Bye. I totally forgot to mention one other thing that I had won, which was last year at a local quilt shop. It's a sewing shop in New Britain, near Doylestown, called Burn Sewing, which I love to take a lot of classes there. I won this fabulous Santa that someone had painted. It was a raffle for charity. I think it was giving money to a woman's place, which helps women displaced and their children. And I won it, so that makes 3 things. Maybe that's it for me now. We'll see, but I had to show it to you because it's so cute.